always wanted to learn how to make this accordion organizer, so one day I looked it up and then I figured out how to do it. So I think it would be a great idea to show you guys how to make this. I always like to keep my things organized, so this little device will be perfect for recipe, receipt, even coupons. And for those of you that's still in school, this will really help to keep your homeworks and your notes organized. You can place it in a box to make it into like an index or recipe holder. Okay, let's begin, shall we? You can pretty much use any paper that you like, but I am using the color printing papers. Fold the paper in half to create the crease. Fold one of the paper flap over to the crease line. Flip the paper over and do the same to the opposite side. So when you open it, it kind of looks like an M shape. Lay the paper down and smooth out the pattern and fold the paper in half. Be sure to create a solid crease. Take one of the paper flap and fold it to the crease line. As you can see, it's similar to the first few steps that we just made. But this time, do not unfold the paper. Okay, now take that loose flap again and fold it to the opposite side. Every time you make a fold, you are diminishing the size of the paper in half, and that's how we want it. As you can see, the center 2 section is not folded yet, so right here I am showing you how to create an equal fold on both sides. You're not making any new fold right here, you're just folding the existing crease to the opposite side. Line the existing crease to the end of the paper. It is important that the distance between each creases are equal. That's why I'm taking this longer method to create the crease pattern. It does take longer to fold this method, but it does guarantee a perfect distance between each creases, so I think it's well worth it. So far it looks like a thick version of an origami fan, and we need to shrink it one more time. Apply the same method and fold it smaller. If you're familiar with origami, you should know that it is important where you place the crease, so that's why I'm taking the longer method to create the zigzag pattern. I'm unfolding everything, so I see that there's a few sections that I still need to fold in the center. Try to fold one section at a time. This way, it guarantees equal distance between each crease. I'm pretty much using the same method, just fold the existing crease to the opposite side. Always remember to create a solid crease. It's easier to work with once you unfold the crease and just move on to the next section. Okay, see one more time how you just pinch the existing crease and fold it to the opposite side. Be sure to line them up properly before you make the solid crease. You may run into a few sections that needs to be folded to the opposite side. Just do so, then you can use it as a guide to fold your next crease. When you finish making all the creases, you will see the zigzag pattern on your paper. Bring the paper back together and you can see it kind of looks like an origami fan. Find the crease that we make at the beginning of the video. You should be able to see the 2 creases on both sides. I marked the existing crease line and where to fold in the next few steps. Fold the paper accordingly to the line. Be sure to fold it back and forth to create strong crease. Pay attention to where to form the triangle crease. It does make a big difference. Remember, the opening flap has the longer side of the triangle. Open the fan and fold down accordingly to the existing crease. This should be the hardest part of the project, but it's very self-explanatory. Use the existing crease pattern and slowly mold them into shape. They don't just fall in place nicely, so sometimes you might need to use your fingers and just pinch them and move them around into shape. As long as you follow the crease pattern, it should line up nicely. Okay, now we finished the one side, now we can move on to the next. Do the same to the opposite side and just follow the crease. The first section is always the easiest part, but it gets easier as you move your finger around. I would suggest you use some cheap paper to practice first before using some of your expensive and pretty papers. So this is the frame, and if you want a bigger folder, just be sure to make few of them and glue them together. I use some pretty scrapbooking paper for the outer frame. Be sure the size of the paper covers the frame completely. Use glue to cover every part of the upper frame. I like to spread out the glue and place the paper on top. This is how it should look so far. Do the same to the opposite side. Be sure to spread the glue out and get into all the corners. Press down and smooth out to give a secure bond. The white paper is going to be for the center, so it needs to be a little bit shorter. Need some floral wire to make the pearl knot for easy opening. I got this idea from Scrapmology. She got some really great ideas for scrapbooking. It's a little too long, so I had to trim it down a little bit. Kind of eyeball where you want to place the knot at the center. Once you poke it through, spread the wire out. All I did was just secure it with some tape. Be sure to smooth out the tape really well. I'm using some ribbon to make the opposite tie, but if you want to, you can use rubber band. Don't make the hole too big though. Grab some wires and wrap the center of the ribbon over the wire. Poke it through the hole and be sure to pull the ribbon all the way through. Spread the wires out and place some tape over it. It works pretty well, but oh my gosh, it looks ugly in the center. To cover that ugliness, we're gonna use another pretty scrapbooking paper. Be sure it fit properly. You may need to trim it a little bit. I'm gonna use double-sided tape instead of glue because the moisture in the glue would cause the paper to become wrinkled. Then it will look very unprofessional and ugly. Smooth it out so the paper will adhere to each other properly. Do the same and insert it to the other side. Gently place the paper in because you don't want the paper to adhere to it until it is completely in. That looks a little bit better. The center paper needs to be a little bit shorter so that it could be easily inserted. Place glues on 3 corners and leave one side unglued. Carefully insert the paper. Try not to use too much glue so that it will not glue the inside of the accordion. Continue adding all the papers and be sure to not use too much glue. So you can see it is pretty much done, but I like to add a little bit of a finishing touch. I cut up a strip of pretty patterns using this pattern cutting scissor. So what I did, I fold them in half. I placed the paper on top to cover any rough edges. Think of it like a cap. This one I can only use glue because how small the paper is. Once you place it in there and gently fold it down. Slowly smooth out any rough edges. Add a strip to the opposite sides as well. Smooth out the paper and voila, it's finished! So of course, I only used 1 sheet of paper to make this tiny pouch. So if you want it bigger, just be sure to glue a few sheets of paper back to back so you can make it longer and bigger. For this one, I used 4 sheets of paper to make it into 2 frames and put it together. For this one, I used the old scratch tickets to make it into an organizer. I always like to remind myself not to play anymore. I hope you liked this tutorial and hopefully you will give it a try. Until next week, may you be happy.